Hi there, welcome. This is the Philanthropic Planner program, and I'd like to welcome you. If you haven't seen us before, we talk about that really exciting, boring subject of philanthropy. For those of you who have surfed through and seen us once or twice before, you kind of get the idea that we talk about philanthropy in a lot of different forms, volunteering, gifting, planning, bequests, a lot of different subjects, all circled around the need to give to charities so that they can provide the services that they do. We try to simplify the complexity and stay away from the legalese, but we really want to have a friendly forum such as this locally to promote dialogue and meaningful dialogue about philanthropy and the need to benefit the community locally and the state and region and country and globally. Philanthropy is not talked about because it's boring, I guess, for a number of reasons. But we wanted to share with you what other people are doing, some of the trial and error that we experience in the area. We'd like to share with you as a donor and philanthropist, but also with philanthropic planners, attorneys, trust officers, accountants, life insurance professionals, and so on. So it's really designed to promote this dialogue, as I mentioned. We are looking at, I believe this is well into our 8th year, and we can identify what we refer to as known gifting or planned gifts or what have you, between $6 and $7 million. So we're pleased with that result, but quite honestly, that is not our motive as much as it is to just think about the subject. If we were to think of philanthropy as or charity and giving as a commodity that market supply and demand and that type of thing versus values and belief, why do people give? I noticed in preparing for today's program a Chronicle of Philanthropy cover that I probably held up 2 or 3 months ago, but on the heading or the cover page, it was, "Why Don't Americans Give More?" And it has a big 2% there. This is an ongoing struggle with the aftermath of a recession. It's hard to believe that we're talking about 5 years after our technical recession. And the impact on charities, the impact on giving personally, and so on. And we're still seeing a great deal written, survey and books from the School of Philanthropy in Indianapolis, even to universities that are now offering courses and degrees. And we look at the American College, for example, with a designation, certification of charter advisor in philanthropy. There just seems to be more that is evolving after this, what I will refer to as post-recession type of dynamic. But today's program, I'd really like to focus in on a couple of books that are out in the press recently, in addition to the Chronicle, as I mentioned, and also share with you, if we have time, some experiences that we've had in the last few weeks in our planning office at Sage Financial. There's a paradox in teaching that the teacher learns as much, maybe even more, than what is taught to the student. I find that true in our practice, that as we help and assist people, couples, and so on, in their reaching their goals and so on, that all of us have common challenges, But at the same time, we're learning all the time from our clients that uniqueness that we all have. So common challenges and the uniqueness of the individual. Now when you have a couple, husband and wife coming together, each having their own uniqueness, and bringing them together, we have a new dynamic there, his, hers, and ours dynamic, and their philosophies. So if we get away from this market demand and supply as a commodity, and we get into really the meaning, the significance of giving, and we look at beliefs and values, and I've got some examples of what I'm referring to there. Well, before I get into the two books, let's say we usually talk about local, state, and national news events that either come out of the Chronicle on a national basis or locally out of some of our local newspapers. I'd like to just take a minute here and pause, because I think in our last program I announced the day before the program there was a public release on a gigantic gift of $250 million to Center College in, I believe it's Danville, Kentucky. Now, Center College is a small liberal arts school, very well respected, and I believe U.S. News and World Report's in listing the top schools. Center College, 1,200 students roughly. I believe their cost this year is $44,000. Pretty exclusive school as far as admission and that type of thing, but they received notice of $250 million gift. And I mentioned that. It came from Eugene Brockman's Charitable Remainder Trust. And the trustee of the trust announced that stock in Universal Computer Systems, I believe it is, that the entire gift was going to be this $250 million stock holding of the CRT. And as it stands, or it stood then, I apologize, as it stood then, it's, if not the largest, certainly one of the top one or two or three largest single gifts to a university in the country, I believe the largest. $250 million gift equaled Center College's entire endowment. Well, things unfolded here just recently, a few weeks ago, and that gift has been taken back, retracted. And you know, there's a lot to learn there. I talk about the paradox of teaching, but what do we learn from that? Well, we learned that people weren't doing their job. It's good, you know, we feel so good that, oh my goodness, we have this humongous gift put on our lap, and we want to get that press release out. I mean, it's exciting news. But it seems that Universal Computer Systems, the company itself, that the stock represented, was in a process of either recapitalization or borrowing or what have you. And the value of the stock was not what the 250 million represented. And there were a lot of other problems and obstacles in this process. So they withdrew the gift. And, you know, like I say, some people weren't minding the store as far as their positions are concerned. But I'd like to come back to that because we're talking about the different players in the process. In that case with Center College, we're talking about the donor through a vehicle of the Charitable Remainder Trust. We're talking about development officers, the head of development at Center College. We're talking about a trustee of the Charitable Remainder Trust. We're talking about attorneys dealing with banks and lending institutions with respect to the recapitalization or refinancing of some debt of of universal computer. So we've got a lot of players in that equation. And I'd like to come back to that a little bit later. The two books that I wanted to share with you, the subject matter kind of intrigued me, and my wife and I had a short vacation, and I, like a dummy, take along some reading material, only on the plane going to and from, but I ended up reading some of the material, and two books struck my eye, and one is by Thomas Tierney and Joel Fleischman, and the title of it is Give Smart. Interesting book, and they talk, or their premise is that the donor has a lot of responsibility in this giving process. Now, if we look at some of these surveys, and after the recession, as I said, we're coming back up to the peak where only 15% of those surveyed, several thousand people, only 15% indicated that they would be giving less this year than last year or the previous years and so on. That really we're coming up with our previous peak gifting. But what's come along either as a byproduct of that dip, that trough, is that donors are becoming more conscious of really asking and demanding more of their impact on the charity. That if I give $1,000 to a charity, I want to know how that $1,000 is being used. How much of it is for cost in raising the money? How is it going to increases of executive compensation and that type of thing? So I think the donor is becoming more conscious and more aware, like an investor doing due diligence in purchasing stock or an investment. So the other book that I'm referring to is Everyone Wants Your Money. This is by Dr. Gary Keller, and the subtitle is Negotiating Through the Process of Philanthropy. And I kind of tied the two of these books together because, and let me come back and say really, and I forgot about sharing with you the title of today's program. I usually struggle with that, and I like to keep it light if I can and have some goofy props just to get your attention surfing between the Red Sox game and whoever they're playing, or the Patriots or what have you. But today's title is Success in the Eyes of the Beholder. And I gleaned that from these two books and from a friend, a favorite author that is down in West Palm Beach, Florida, Margaret May. And as I've mentioned, and I've mentioned her book a couple times, she's got several books, Women, Wealth, and Giving. And we talk about the success being in the eyes of the beholder, but who's the beholder in this case? Is the beholder the donor? Is the beholder the institution receiving the gift, the development people, the professionals in the development area? Or is the beholder the beneficiary of that charity? It could be a university or a patient in the hospital, or it could be in the audience at the symphony, or a patron at the museum. Is it the beneficiary who's the beholder? So as we go through this and say, where are you going, Bob, with this? We go back to Dr. Keller's book, Everyone Wants Your Money. There are only so many dollars out there. We'd like it to be more, discretionary capacity to give. We'd like that to increase maybe by 1%, That would be an incredible increase in the charitable arena. But when we talk about that, we want to know more about, is it having an impact? So the donor as the beholder, in the eyes of the beholder, is, like I mentioned in the previous situation, becoming more conscious of, I want to know what you're doing in research. I want to know the impact. I want to know if you recognize the fact that as donors, we, as in the case of a recent survey, 75% of donors would like to give but not be hounded for additional solicitations. And we have some charities, I'm missing the one in particular, where the major announcement was, we will ask once for your donation and never ask again. And the response was incredible, that I recognize the incredible cost of mailing and staffing and responding and calling and doing this and doing a repeat of this. And if you eliminate that, I can see the effectiveness of your fundraising and that more dollars are going to your mission. So from that one experimental and very risky venture, we will ask for one donation and never solicit again. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to send out their periodic newsletters or they're not going to communicate. It's just that there will not be that repeating solicitation. So success. How do we define success? It's in the eyes of the beholder. The donor has a vested interest in knowing where those charitable dollars are going. The development people, and it's interesting, these two books could be written for the donor, but the paradox is if the development people don't understand the lessons, the message from that they glean from that donor message and say, whoa, we understand the donor more. We understand that the belief and value of their continued gifts every year. And we have great software in the development area that will track if you're gifting $25 a year, every year for 10, 15, 20 years, the likelihood of that donor having not just a bequest in the will for the charity, but a significant bequest is much, much greater. There's a belief, there's a value and belief at the very core of every time that check is written. Now, if we can set that aside for a second, I'd like to share with you some lessons of well-meaning people, not necessarily, and this is the other thing, you don't have to be a multimillionaire to be a philanthropist. But I've got a couple of examples in the last few weeks where we're doing some scenarios, what-if scenarios, and 1040 projections for the end of the year. We like to do that a couple times a year to, again, keep people on track with their goals and to kind of anticipate what either a quarterly estimate might be based on increases in dividends or unexpected income or something like that. But I'd like to share with you some tax returns and clients that well-meaning, let me get to one of those, where multiple gifts solicited again and again and again, and I send in a $25 check, and as soon as the charity receives that, they send back another solicitation, And I'm thinking, well, I just gave to them, and maybe I'll give another $25. And toward the end of the year, that happens very frequently, 2, 3, 4 times. But here's a couple that their gifting in 2012 was a little less than $5,000, $4,800, $4,900. But we have this list of 14 or 15 charities where the smallest of those gifts was $10, and the largest in that grouping was $35. Now I'm excluding the larger gift to the church. I'm excluding a couple of $100 checks. But if we concentrated on those small multiple checks of $10, $20, $25, and so on, if we knew and understood that every one of those gifts, there's a cost, there's an administrative cost, a solicitation cost, and so on, of $19. So I gift $25, and 19 of it is gone. And in some cases, all of it's gone. None of it went to the mission. There was no impact. So we have, out of the 14 or 15 gifts, we have 9 or 10 of these small gifts. And the approach, again, value and belief is, I know that this is a good cause, but is it really helping the cause? Maybe next year I forget some of these and I send a $100 check. Now, if the cost is $19, there's more going to that cause, and next year I'll concentrate on one of the other charities. Let me share with you another example. Now, this is the other extreme. A gentleman, never married, no children, no immediate family, some distant nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews, but charitably inclined, and the motivation there, the gentleman is worth about $7 million. And his primary effort is to get below $5 million for tax purposes and for Connecticut. So he keeps shaving off this. He contributes to 529s for the grandnieces and nephews. He contributes to a trust, but also to charity. His concern is magnified by the fact that in addition to will, bequests, and that type of thing, he has taken, in the form of beneficiaries on his IRA, 54% of his IRA, which is about $2.4, $2.5 million, is going to 3 charities. Now, a recent appointment with this gentleman was he is researching and doing a lot of background checking on the effectiveness of these 3 charities. He wants to help them, but he also wants to know the impact. Are they really fulfilling what their publicly announced mission is? So when we look at success of donating money, when we look at the success of philanthropy and negotiating through all of the maze of philanthropy, it's in the eyes of the beholder. The beholder be it the donor, in the eyes of the beholder in the charity, and the incredible demand on the services, especially if we have less and less government subsidizing and assistance there. Those gifting dollars are in greater demand. Or is it in the eyes of the beholder, the beneficiary of the services? Some bad examples for you. This same gentleman, in gifting tens of thousands of dollars, feels rather neglected, that's a bad term, but out of scholarships that he's given out over the 17 years, he's only received 5 or 6 letters acknowledging and thanking him for this scholarship. Now, in the eyes of the beholder, of the beneficiary of those services, that kind of negates or as a negative touch to him to say, should I really be giving these scholarships? So in the eyes of the beholder, of the beneficiary of the service or the charity, the belief and value system of that beneficiary might be questioned, and it's referred to in these two books. So success, we'd like to see more giving. We'd like to see more giving where the capacity, and I relate back to that survey where only 15% of those surveyed indicate that they will be giving less this year. One more quick addendum on the gentleman receiving required minimum distribution from his IRA. Recall, we've mentioned in the past, and now this gentleman is going to take advantage of gifting directly from his IRA as a part of the required minimum distribution, directly to the charity, and avoiding receipt, paying taxes, receiving less net from that IRA distribution, and having those monies go directly to the charity. It's a strategy that is good. In this case, the gentleman is certainly wealthy, but we can do that where we have age 70 and a half, and we have a required minimum distribution, and gifting part of that distribution from the IRA directly to charity. So a lot of things come out of the philanthropic arena. We're looking at the impact of what the government is going to be doing in the coming weeks. And I would be remiss in reminding you that it would be great if you'd sit down and write a check out to Simsbury Community TV, $25, $50, or wouldn't it be great if you wrote them a $100 check? See you next time. Thanks for joining us. Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.